And then I could shut the volume off again,
Yes,
thank God.
this meeting is being live streamed. Here.
All right. Okay, so the volume's off. And then here we are. Hi, everyone. It's Andra. I'm back. I was just in our other group, and I am here with a good friend, Helena, and she is a fashion designer. So, and she's a woman of a lot of interest. So I'm just going to introduce her to you. She's going to tell you a little about herself, and then we're going to have a nice little coffee chat together. So how are you? Tell everybody who you are and what you do, and wonderful you.
Thank you so much, Andra. And hi, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. So I'm Frances, and I'm actually based in Australia, in Brisbane. I know some people always ask exactly where, so it's part of Queensland. um, but yeah, I was actually a university student. I was studying a master's of health management, but I had to drop out because I've actually became hearing impaired in the last couple of years, and universities don't cater to hearing impaired people. So when I'm in hearing impaired, I struggle to hear, like if I'm sitting in a car with somebody, I'm sitting at the back, I can't hear what they're saying. But if I'm sitting at the front with them, I can hear. So it's just like the little things that I basically, sorry, my alarm, basically, struggle to even do. And one time it was actually starting to affect my speech. And so I dropped out and I actually tapped into my creative side. And so I've always been a creative person. That was pretty much my thing. We lived and traveled all over the world, and it was always something. My parents always taught me something to always be observant, and that's how you learn. So that's how I pretty much learned to do pretty much anything, really, just observe and watch and figure it out. And so we've actually been selected to be a part of New York Fashion Week in February, and we're the first Australian brand to headline for Runway 7 fashion. So yeah.
I'm super excited about that, and I will be there because you were kind enough to give me tickets. I like that you focus on things that are dear to your heart, like disabilities and things like that, and you've incorporated that into your fashion world. Can you tell them a little bit more about that?
I think for me personally, once I became hearing impaired, and I needed hearing aids, I just felt so shut down about it. Like I wasn't normal. Like even though I know that now that it's not a bad thing, because I have hearing aids and now I can hear just little things. But I think at the beginning it was just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna be different, like people are going to treat me differently. And I think I felt that because sometimes people would say things like, oh, you can hear me even though they're standing right in front of me, you know what I mean? But if you talk to me and we're like at the back of the room and you're standing on one side of the room, I would not be able to hear you. So it was things trying to explain that to people, which in the end wasn't their fault. It was just they've never been exposed to that. And so for me, when I incorporated it into our fashion show, it was basically to highlight people who were different, people who different in a way that, people would never even bother with them. Like, sometimes people look at certain people and they're like, ah, and in the fashion world, we're always on physical appearance, and so, okay,
So
yeah,
true.
I might wear makeup and stuff or whatever, but some people are like, oh yeah, she's pretty and stuff. But then when they learn that I have a hearing problem, sometimes they look the other way sometimes, so it's kind of like that. But we've just gotten someone on who is actually wheelchair bound. And so, but it was really to highlight individuals who have accomplished so much in their life, like people who are doing so well in the community. We have one lady, she's flown in from Ghana. She's a domestic violence survivor, so she's going to be in the show. we have a lady who's coming in from Ohio. She's a single mother. And then her brother is LGBT. So, it's really about giving those people who have achieved a lot, but still people have a funny edge when they look at these people. And it's basically the state of people that it doesn't matter what you look like or where you come from or what disability you have, you are still able to achieve something. And I think that's the message we need today, especially the world we live in now.
I so love what you're doing. And I, of course, didn't know about your disability, until you mentioned that. And we were talking about a friend of mine that was disabled, and that's how that came out. And I think that people do treat people differently if they are different. They embrace the people that are very similar to themselves, and tend to stray away from the unique. And the unique tend to feel like they are the ones with the problem, rather than everybody just accepting each other for who they are. So I'm surprised that there's so much of this going on. Not that it's really going on, honestly, but that there's so many people feeling the same way. So, I mean, I feel like I'm different. You feel like you're different. So all these people are walking around feeling like there's something wrong with them. So what is society doing as a whole to make us all feel like that, And I think the more that we speak about that the more it's going to let people know it's okay to be different, whatever that is. Just embrace who you are. The woman that was just on was telling us about getting back into the body, and not just dressing up the outside, really focusing on what's going in on the inside, that we live in our head. And I spent a long time in that head, and it was a dangerous place to be. So I embrace that. But you're also an author. You're a woman of many talents. So you're in 2 of She Rises books. Which 2 of those?
I'm doing Me Too, but Never Again. And the other one is Dream Big, but Do Bigger. So yes, it's gonna be so exciting. I've never written a book before, so this is gonna be exciting, and just having to share it with other people who were in the book, because it's co-authored. So that'll be pretty cool.
It is an amazing experience. So I'm in Unleash Her, that's coming up, and then Unstoppable Women in Healthcare. But this is a series of collections that I think I'm not sure if this is 7 that we're up to, or where we are. But for me, it's really about, I don't know if it's because where I came in the Unleash Her, but it looks like in all of the books that women are really sharing their stories, things that they've gotten through in their life, and that maybe that were really hard, and it changed them, but it made them want more, and to really reach for that, despite what everything around them was saying, like, you can't do this or you can't do that. They said, well, I want more, and I'm going for it, and they really stepped up and just kept doing. And as an entrepreneur, things are all about balance. It's not always easy. It's very difficult sometimes, and sometimes you just want to run, but you step up anyway, and you keep showing up. So what is that like for you, that juggling act? Like, how do you keep that balance with all that you're doing?
I think, like you said, it's definitely hard, and I love listening to music. So that also really helps me, and I kind of dance around my room and everything, and I pretend I have an audience in front of me, like I'm singing. But so that's sort of, so that's my kind of way. But I think what also helps me to kind of show up is that I'm also showing up not just for me, but for other people who have probably been in my position. So I could probably understand how they feel. And I'm trying to elevate them more. But then there's a saying, right? You can't help somebody unless they really want help. That's the other issue. But I think, it's really for me because growing up, like it was really, yeah, I've been really blessed at the same time, but I've also, and that's what I kind of talk about in my Me Too book, that I've had a lot of bad experiences. And even though I've had those bad experiences, I don't let that define me. Like I'm still showing up for me or showing up for other women who have been in my situation. But I think the hardest thing about that and being an entrepreneur is not just the balance, but it's like you want to help so much, but you can only help yourself. Like you have to, limit your time to what exactly you're going to give to other people. And I think for me, I think I found out that I helped too much, that, I was really dependent on other people trying to help me, like in just getting a task done. But in reality, I think I was just really, I would just let it slide and let it slide. But in reality, it was affecting me more than it was, affecting them, because it was like, all these responsibilities that I needed done, it couldn't get done or didn't get done. And I think it just gave me like, frustration and overload. So yeah, it's definitely been about trying to focus on myself as a person and grow more, but trying to learn more from other people, but just really knowing when to take that time out. So, and I think you do that, don't you? You said you switch your phone off for a certain period of
Every
time in the
day at the
morning.
same
Yeah.
time. I was in a program with you know, as a nurse, we tell people, and not, I don't mean this in a bad way, but um, before discharge and everything, we tell them the steps that they have to take. So I'm very used to care planning and telling people, okay, you need to do this and take your insulin and do that. So I felt like, because I had always been telling, that I needed to step back and become a better listener. So I took an actual class with someone to learn how to step back, and they teach you all these strategies to really help you take that time for yourself, because I was that people pleaser and always giving and giving and not taking back what I needed for me. So this kind of allows me to do that. I shut off my phone at a certain time. I only check my emails, at most twice a day, and I have 5 emails. So I spend 15 minutes on emails and that's it. Yeah, not that I'm in there for an hour. And I need to have that family time. So I have to make that family time. My husband's been with me throughout all of this. So he's important. That I need, my sister, my friends, you need that time too. Um, but just really finding that balance and not allowing people to interfere with that, you know, and doing what I need to get done in the first 2 hours of waking. I've been gotten a little off track with that lately, but I won't turn on my phone, and I'll do 2 hours of what I have to do, the exercise, the meditation, the abundance blocks and all that other stuff. First, what do you have routines that you do daily?
I think I've been slacking off and not doing them. So usually I would wake up at 4 and I would like work out and go for a walk. But lately, I mean, I still go for a walk, but lately I've actually just gotten off this clinical trial. So we just did a clinical trial for cervical cancer to find a new drug to help out and everything. And so lately, right now, it's actually there's a big storm going on outside. So we're expecting some more bad weather. But otherwise, I usually get up and go for a walk and just kind of walk up and down. I've got like a nice like river. It's like a riverbed and everything. So there's like a pathway and you just kind of walk up and down it and walk around. And I just love nature. So I just like getting up, looking at the sunrise, and then yeah, and then I would just do stuff that I need to do. But I should actually try what you do and like turn off my phone, because I think as the younger generation, we're just constantly on our phone. So it's like from the time I wake up, I check the phone, and it's a really bad habit, because they say you shouldn't actually look at your phone right away. So yeah.
I find it very stress provoking. There's always, there's a lot of bad news out there, and I choose to pick and choose when I'll listen to it. But of course, working online, that's hard because, this thing's going on all the time. But if I'm trying to schedule a post, I have 25 people popping up. Oh, you're up, because they automatically know when you're on. But just finding that time for you, I find that when I'm not consistent with my routines, as someone who helps people with weight loss, you have to practice what you preach, so
Yeah.
I tell people consistency, because I know that if I deviate from that norm, all bets are off. If I don't exercise a day or two, day three, I'm not getting up to do what I need to do for me, because I've started to condition myself a different way. If I don't set like goals for myself, or I'm big on journaling. If I journal what I'm gonna do the night before I go to bed, the next day it's fresh in my mind. So I'm not like willy-nilly with my day, because I forgot what he used to call it, but Evan had the butterfly effect, that you're looking like this, you know, doing all these things, and not really focusing on what you're doing. So not focusing is kind of like avoiding things, and then they don't get done. So he had like a lot of really clear strategies that he suggested, but they're only suggestions, but I took every one of them because I value who he is in the business world, but as a coach and as a professional. So do it, if you want to have what people have in your life, then you should follow closely to those people, what they're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So
I
I
should
think
definitely
it's
try it.
so tell me a little bit more about what got you involved in fashion.
Well, my dad is actually Caucasian and my mom's Asian. And they're both my adopted parents. And they loved me dearly, like we lived in pretty much, they were really the only family I had. Even though my dad has had previous marriages before, and my brother just passed away last month from cancer. But like, it was just pretty much the three of us. Like, he's about 20 years old, my brother. So yeah, he was, yeah, and we never really lived together, but we were always in contact. But we lived in Mexico, China, Malaysia, Hong Kong. I've been to Fiji, studied in Laos, studied in Germany. So there's a whole list right there. But we spent a lot of time. So I actually didn't get a shot to go to school, like compared to a lot of the kids I went to school, well, high school with. They did the whole elementary school, the whole high school, pretty much everything. But for me, it was kind of like I missed out pretty much on most of my elementary. It wasn't until I moved back to Australia, I think grade 6 and everything. So I think having that ability, or even the skills to really adapt to different cultures and different places and understand how society works, I think I was able to kind of create this fashion line, because I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but I really wanted something that was really different, but something that really um, stands out, and also really reflected on who I was as a person. Because in the fashion world, it's really the same thing. You see the same thing, the same certain people. There's like just one show, just skinny people, curvy people, whatever it may be. And I really wanted something that really highlighted everybody. Like, why does it have to be this certain look for this particular fashion show? Like, why can't we have, different people? Because that's pretty much how I grew up. It was like we never saw anything based on color. And of course, I've had my experiences of racism, within Caucasian people within colored people, all that sort of stuff. But it was really like there was really no um, what's the word? There was really no like I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of the word.
Diversity?
Like it wasn't really, yeah, like really specific. Like my dad was really like, we don't judge people based on the way we look. It's all about personality. So if this person, has a good personality, regardless of where they come from or what color they are, then that's a good thing. But having gone to university or even high school, I'd always get people, they'd be like, why do you mix with these people? Or, there were certain people. And I said, and I always used to say, like, what does that mean? Like, if you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. That's pretty much it. Like, if you want to talk to me, I'll talk to you. If you don't want to, that's okay. But it was just things like that. So I think that's really how I got started. But also I modeled in Australia, and I'd always get those things where the ad, it would say anybody can apply. But when you get there, it was basically like it was only for certain people. Like I think one time I did it was just like a trial or whatever, but it was really mainly for skinny people, or yeah, what do you call them? Petite people. And the only thing they gave me was a pink dress. That was it. That was the only thing that fit me. And so there was another guy there. He was of Middle Eastern heritage, and he was a big fella, but he'd been modeling in the Middle East for decades, and they didn't have anything for him. So it was like we were all here, and it said apply. Everybody, you could come, but there wasn't room for us because they didn't have anything for us. So I think when I created this, it was really to make sure it would be all shapes and sizes, all colors, all, disability or whatever. So that's pretty
I love
much
that. More
how I got into
diversity.
it.
I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
I totally love that. Well, I'm very proud of you for what you achieved. I thought it was funny when you said that you would be considered big, because here you'd be very petite. So when I heard you say big, I'm thinking to myself, by whose eyes? I was saying she's so tiny. So it just goes to show you different parts of the world have very different ideas, it, Italian men like their women bigger. So it just depends on where you are in the world to what's norm and what's not. But you also have a podcast about traveling and stuff, about people's different perspectives of traveling. So what's that like?
It's been interesting actually, because with the pandemic now, everything's online, so we meet so many different people. And the last girl we had, she's Maori and Cook Islander, but she had been living in the Middle East for almost 10 years. She followed her mom there, and her mom actually married an Emirati, and she's actually a makeup artist. And so, for her, it was like she was shifting from Western culture to Eastern culture. And, when she first got there, it was basically, I think, a big culture shock for her. But as time went on, she really understood how society operates, how people live their life. And so it's been really interesting to hear, I think, from other people's perspectives. And I think, that's what people really need to hear when they get onto this travel podcast. It's really about somebody's experiences of traveling, because what you and I may have experienced can be, a completely different thing. So we might have a different view on how someone views, particular kind of food or animal or whatever it may be, because there's really no right or wrong answer. It's really just from what you've experienced and what you've lived through. So that's really what the podcast highlights. It really explains people's different versions of where they grew up and what they've seen. So yeah.
I love that. I really do. So you just all over the place doing everything. You're like me. But I think that's great. I think we have to open ourselves up to do more things. So I just wanted to step back a little bit and talk a little bit about the books and like when you were approached to do this, because I've met with a lot of women that are in the books, and a lot of them have gone through challenges where they felt like, they weren't enough, or if they could really do this, and they're all here, so they can all do, they can all do it. What was it like for you when you were approached to do this book? What are some of the thoughts that went through your head?
Especially for the Me Too, but never again, because that really touches on like sexual abuse and things like that. And for me, I have never gotten any counseling for what I went through. And I'm actually working on that right now. But it was literally over a period of 8 years. There were certain different sets of scenarios that had happened. And I think at the same, and while that was going on at the same time, and I put this at the start of the book chapter to say that parenting, there's no manual for parenting, and there's no such thing as a perfect parent or a perfect person. So, I really taken the time to highlight that, because the life I've actually had, it wasn't a bad life at all. I've been really blessed to travel and live everywhere, seen many things. But I also want to share with people that, even though people see me now as some fashion designer or a podcaster or whatever it may be, there was a time in my life where I didn't have it all together. And sometimes I feel like I still don't have it together. But like when I say have it together, it's really like there was a time where I needed people and they weren't there. And it wasn't because they didn't want to be there. It was also because they themselves were going through something else. So they couldn't be there. So I had to basically step up and show up for myself. And I think when I read this book, it was really, really heavy, because I spoke to a lot of the other women that were part of this book, and it was really more like a healing thing for them too, because especially coming from a Eastern perspective, it's not really spoken of. It's regarded as a taboo. But having lived in the West for so long now, we see things as sexual abuse as a bad thing. And it's more of an awareness thing rather than a taboo. So I really explained, and I should say it has when I talk about perfect parenting, no, it's got nothing to do with like family abusing me. It's more like other people, because we've lived and traveled and I met certain different people. So it was about them. I should just say that in case someone thinks that what
Yes,
happened, but
no,
actually
that's
no, it
good. I'm
happened.
glad
Yeah.
you brought attention.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
corrected that. So then the other book is Dream Big and Do Bigger. What was it like to go into that's coming up? That's behind one of mine, right? So
I
has
think
that
so. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. That
so
comes January.
because they all kind of had the theme. So I have the Unleasher that's now, and that's really about people, being okay with who they are, and despite what people tell you, just showing up and being the best you can be, and really becoming unstoppable. And the healthcare book is really about different people's aspects of health, like different relationships they've had with health, caring for parents, and me being a nurse, but all different people that have had experiences with health and stuff. So I think these books are really inspiring, and they're
Yeah.
going to reach. I'm glad that they're global, because they're going to reach so many people, and really let people know that your voice matters. You and I might not agree on what job, or what we want for ourselves, but there's a certain amount of acceptance of who you're trying to be and who I'm trying to be from everybody. I think when people see a nurse or a doctor or a coach, we don't sit there and say, oh, that's not good, just because it's not good for us. So I think that these books are gonna shine a little light to that. Like, it's okay to be whoever you are, and really inspire women to embrace their goals, and not really put limits on themselves. And I might not be explaining it quite as good as I want to, because this book is amazing. Um, but I think, like, we've been taught, society, has, women have come a long way, but not where they really need to be yet. But not just women, those classes that you were talking about, those protected classes that you were talking about, that are really struggling to even get to where women are, to be accepted for who they are. So I think this book kind of sends that message, like, just be yourself and stand up, embrace who you are as a woman, and be unstoppable. Don't let limits or caps or anything stop you from doing what you want to do. So I'm really grateful for the experience. I've met so many wonderful women, including yourself.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Yeah, same with you. Like, it's just been a real, I think, game changer. Like, I don't think it's even been that long since I've even joined the group and everything, but it's just like really amazing to see, what is out there in the world. And because Australia, we're called the land down under. So when they say land down under, we are really like under, like we don't hear about anything. So, it's really awesome just to be a part of so many different things. And I've got like new places. And because I love traveling, I'm like, oh, I get some new places to visit, like New York. Some of the other ladies are from Scotland. I think someone's from, where are they from? Ohio, and different parts of the state. So it'll be so exciting. And yeah, it's really good to see, what how similar we are, regardless of where we're living. Like, that, we've experienced such similar things, but we can all like relate to each other. So I think, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun when we go for book tour.
Yeah, I was in the one in New York, and it was a lot of fun, because there were people there from all over the world, and we were very similar. We broke bread together and sat down and had a really, really nice time. And everybody's in a different place at their business, but everybody just really surrounds you and supports you through the process, which is great. So this has just been a really great experience. So I'm gonna close this down, and I'm gonna share all your links with everybody. Is there anything, if you could give women one message about um what you, well, it's your message. So if you could tell women anything, what would you like women to know?
I think the biggest thing would be never give up on yourself. And, you know, just having spoken to so many different women, and now they see that I'm writing this book. I've had a few women come to me and said, I've always wanted to write a book, but I didn't know how. Can you show me how? And like, so we kind of pushed them off in that direction. And some of them have even said, I wanted to do this years ago, but I just didn't know how or didn't know when. And I think that's the biggest thing about, what, as you said, women have always been told what to do, how to do it, where to stay, all this sort of stuff. But now, people are starting to find more expression in who they are. And I think it's really important that, we only live to a certain point, and, we should never give up on what we've always wanted to do. Like, just take that shot. Like, if it doesn't work out, then just go again. Like, it's there's another way. Like, I think there's a saying, even if someone says no to you, you're gonna get a yes eventually. So just,
Yeah.
just keep going. Yeah. And yeah, that's all I think women, should do. Just never give up on what they have always wanted to do. Just go and do it. Like, don't wait for the right time. Just, the time is now. So just, yeah, go and do it.
I love that. The time is now. You're never ready. One of my girlfriends from high school, we've been friends forever, shared with me last night that she wanted to write a book. You know, always wanted to write a book, but she didn't know how, whatever. I said, just do it. I said, I can put you in touch with some people. Oh, it's not a good. I said, it's never a right time. I said, I didn't think I could do it either. I said, but now look, I have two. I said, so just do it. Your voice deserves to be heard. So we can inspire people that way too. Guys, I want to thank you all for tuning in and meeting Frances. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman, and you'll be seeing a lot more from her in the fashion world and here in New York and in all the upcoming books. And I really hope you embrace her and love her as much as I do. And we're going to sign out. So have a great day, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And Andra, see you soon.